In this unit I'm going to talk about detail lines. I'm going to start off showing you how to create some basic detail lines. We'll look at the palette of tools available for doing so. We'll discuss the different line styles available to you. I will then show you how to create your own custom line styles by giving some examples of the typical use of detail lines. Hopefully it will allow you to use them more efficiently in your own projects. Okay, let's go ahead and create some detail lines. So we need to navigate to the annotate menu. So annotate, and on our detail panel here we've got detail line. So go ahead and select detail line. The ribbon immediately changes. Modify and place detail lines. Now this end of the ribbon you've got two separate areas, the draw palette, and I'll cover that in detail a little later in the unit, and also line styles. So quite simply you just click start point and click an end point. Now if you look at the options bar, there is an option there to chain your lines, and that is ticked at the moment, hence I can keep clicking in my view and place further segments of detail lines directly in there. Now when I've finished I can simply press the escape key, or remember the modify on the left of the ribbon to cancel out of the command. So there we've placed our first series of detail line segments. Okay, so let's look at the draw palette in more detail. So remember, annotate, detail line, and this was the draw palette. You should start to become a little more familiar with this draw palette. It's a fairly standard palette now that appears in Revit, typically in sketch mode when you're required to sketch out a boundary. Do you remember from defining floors, ceilings by sketch, roof by footprint? They all brought up this draw palette in sketch mode to allow you to choose the most appropriate tool for sketching out your boundaries and so forth. Well, as you can see, it's also applicable for detail lines. You'll also see it with model lines. So let's just go through each of these quickly. So the default setting is just a single line segment. We've also got rectangles, polygons, sort of inscribed and circumscribed polygons, circles, got a range of arcs, sort of 3-point there, do the start, the end, and then a midpoint or a point on the tangent. We've got, say, a range of arcs, fillet arcs. We've also got splines. We've got ellipses. So again, start and then the width of the ellipse. We've also got a partial ellipse, and really useful is pick lines. Now it really comes into its own when you've got, for example, a DWG file, a 2D CAD plan imported or linked into your file, and you're wanting to place detail lines over the top of lines in the CAD file. Then you would hit pick lines. So it works with DWGs, but as you can see, it also will find lines in its own sort of native Revit format, the elements it's detecting here, and it will create detail lines over the top. So it's actually put a detail line over there. Very difficult to see because it's just superimposed on top of the edge of the wall. So anywhere where you've got something that you want to use as a template, let's say the boundary of an atrium or the edge of a roof, and you want to start adding some detail lines on, you can just use pick lines and then simply click over the lines in question, and everywhere it detects a line it will create a detail line over the top of the same length. It's a more efficient way of putting those lines in rather than using the single segment with chain on and you having to go and carefully click the points and actually draw out or trace over. Much quicker just to hit that pick lines and then just simply click on the lines in question. Okay, so we've just seen how to create some detail lines, but what if you want to change the line style in terms of its thickness, its pattern, its colour? That's where line styles comes into play. So I'm going to show you now how to manipulate the line styles. In the next part of the unit, I will actually show you how to create your own new line styles. So let's go ahead and put some further detail lines into this project. So remember, annotate, detail line can be found on the detail panel. Hit detail line. We've just seen the draw palette, the choice of tools available there. The other area you're interested in is the line style drop down box. Now if I click on this drop down, what you're presented with is a list of the line styles in this particular project, and the line styles available in this project will be determined by the line styles that were in the Revit template upon which this project was based. So one of the first things you want to do is, as a team or as an office, is agree on what line styles you need to work with, and then get those set up in your office template so that when anyone starts a new project in your office, they're going to be presented with a list of standard line styles that you've all agreed to. So these ones here are just the default ones that Autodesk supply in their standard template. You're almost certainly going to want to add a few extra ones in there for different purposes. The top half of the list are system line styles, reserved by the system for things like hidden lines, when it sort of will dot on where things are hidden behind other objects. Towards the bottom are the user defined line styles, and this is where when you go and create your own, they'll be listed down here further down. So for now, let's just work with, let's say, the wide line style. Go ahead and create a detail line. And you can clearly see there now we've chosen a different line style. The only difference with this one is it's a bit thicker than the default one. So we can change its color and its pattern, which we're going to do in a second. So simply annotate, detail line, choose the line style that you're after. You can retrospectively change line styles, so go and click on one there and you just get the line style dialog box presented where you can go and switch it to a different line style. Let's now look at how we create additional line styles to add to this list. To do so, we need to go to the Manage menu, so at the top of the ribbon, Manage, and we need to go to Additional Settings. Click on that button, get a list of a range of different settings here, and just above halfway down you get Line Styles. Go ahead and click on that, get a Line Styles dialog box. By default the list of line styles is collapsed. You just need to go and click on that little plus symbol to expand the list. Now we can actually see the total list of line styles in this project. And towards the bottom we've got those user defined ones. So we need to create a new subcategory, so lines being the main category, and these the line styles listed here are actually a subcategory of the lines category. So we need a new subcategory down here. So if you look towards the bottom right hand side of this panel, there is a button there to create a new subcategory. Let's go ahead and hit that. I'm just going to call this test line style. So give it a name. It's a subcategory of lines. You can leave that as it is. Hit OK. It gets put in the list, and then you simply need to work your way along these columns to configure the line to display as you need it to. So the first one is the line weight in projection, i.e. when you see it, it's not being cut through. They're always seen in projection. You can't cut through a line. It's not like a wall or a door. So go ahead and select a line weight. Let's have quite a thick one. Bump that up to 9. Let's choose a color for the line. Let's go for nice purple. It's okay. And then choose a line pattern. The moment it's solid, go and hit the drop down, and let's get a dash dot style. Hit OK. Go back to annotate, detail line. Have a look in our drop down of available line styles, and there it is, test line style. hit it there, and there is our new user-defined line style. Now, a very important point to note here is that if you create new line styles like we've just done now in a specific project, those line styles will only be available to you within that project. So you then go to start a new project and you've either got to recreate those line styles again, or you've got to use something called transfer project standards to bring them over from one project to another. If they're line styles that you think you're going to use on a regular basis, please go and open your standard Revit template file, the file with a .rte file extension, not a .rvt, which is a Revit project, but a Revit template file, a .rte. Go and edit that file and include your line styles in there. Then if you set in your file locations for Revit in your installation all new projects to be based on that particular Revit template file, then every time you start a new project, all these custom user-defined line styles will be preloaded into that new blank project for you. Okay, so we've talked quite a bit about how to create our detail lines and how to customize the line styles. So when would you use these detail lines? Typical example, let's say with this plan here we want to mark on a fire strategy drawing, so escape routes. We could go to annotate, detail line. Let's just stick with that test line style we've created now. So let's do a sort of means of escape from the furthest point. So we could do that. Form an arrowhead here. So we'll just mirror that, pick that axis. So you can envisage creating a line style to suit whatever you need that to display as, and then you simply mark on or trace out the route using your detail lines. We're using detail lines because this line isn't part of the model. We wouldn't actually see this on the floor if we were in there. We just want to use it to document our plan, to show the means of escape. We don't need to see it on any other plan, so it's fine that it's view specific. So that's one use. Sort of boundaries, red lines around planning application, around site boundaries, certainly in the UK. Quite typical to put a thick sort of red line to demarcate the site. Again, you can create a custom line style for that and then use detail lines to trace around the boundary. If you've brought in a DWG of the site, a site survey, remember that pick lines tool. So annotate detail line, just use pick lines, click on the lines of the boundary in the DWG file and get it to add those detail lines round there to show that. If I switch to a section view, haven't got a floor slab in here, but if I did have, maybe you'd want to pick out the DPM and the DPC membranes. So again, annotate, detail line. I'll go with the wide lines just for now. Let's just turn that detail level up a little bit. Lower the scale, just make it easy to see what we're doing. And I know the DPC wouldn't cross the cavity, but just to give you an example of where you'd be using detail lines. So you're not going to be modeling the DPC and the DPM as an actual 3D element in your model. There's no need. We can simply add those onto sections just to show where they are, and that would be a really good use of detail lines. You sort of get the idea there, and you put the appropriate line weights in. What you wouldn't want to do, although you could, but I'll just explain my thought process in a second, is for things like wall plates up here. Yes, technically we could, let's just lower that down to a thinner line style. I forget the green colour, but you could imagine drawing out the wall plates here, Again, you wouldn't want to model the wall plates. I suggest you may do, it's up to you, but I would suggest there's no need. We're not generally going to see them in many views. Typical section on eaves detail, that's where we want to see them. That's why we're producing it as a 2D detail. Now you could just draw it out with detail lines like that. What I would suggest is you're going to use detail components where we can predefine this 2D detail as a complete component or a 2D block, if you like, and just apply that. That's a more efficient way than actually drafting that component out manually with detail lines. No right or wrong there. If you want to use detail lines for that, you can, but detail components are probably more applicable, and I've got a dedicated unit just on detail components coming up very soon. Hopefully that gives you a good start of a 10 on where it's appropriate to actually use detail lines in your Revit projects. Remember, any questions with any units on this course you can ask on the forums at bimscape.com, and I'll do my best to help you out with that, so please do ask if you're not sure. But that's where typically you would use detail lines. I've used the term view specific quite a few times in the course so far. I'm going to use it again now. Detail lines are a good example of view specific items, i.e. they only exist in the view in which they were created. So we were in the level 0 floor plan view, this one here, when we created these detail lines. So they only exist here. If I right click, duplicate the view, we get a copy of that view. We can still see the model, but we do not see those detail lines. They're not part of the model. We go back to level 0, we right click, duplicate with detailing, get a new copy of that view. Again, we see the same model. It's like looking through another viewport into the same model, but we get a copy of those detail lines created afresh in this new view. So we could go and delete those, manipulate them, change the style. It would have no effect on the original detail lines created in that first view. So if you do create a series of details using detail lines and you need another view where the detail is similar, you may want to use that option, duplicate with detailing, to give you a good start of a 10. Then go and make your changes, your adjustments to the detail, knowing that the original is safe from being edited or changed. And that completes this unit. To get the most out of this training material, please take the complete course online at bimscape.com. Here you will find a complete learning management system that allows you to work through the course at your own pace. Comprehensive written tutorials provide additional information to that found in the training videos. Mark each unit as complete as you finish it and move on to the next. At any point you can return to any of the units you have previously completed to go over the material again. If you'd like to take this course online, please visit www.bimscape.com/Revit for details.